Good morning, Acadiana, and thank you for tuning in to Local News Live, a production of AOC Community Media in partnership with the Acadiana Advocate. It is December 30th, 2020, Wednesday, and we will read you the stories that the Advocate reports in print over our airwaves on AOC 1, on the AOC Community Media channel on YouTube, and on Cypress Street Radio at aocinc.org/CS radio. You can find the print versions of these stories and more at theadvocate.com. We couldn't bring you this community service without the generosity of our volunteer news readers, and today I will be your reader. My name is Matt Roberts. Welcome to Local News Live. In the Acadiana region, New Beginning, the first phase of Holy Rosary Project, kicks off by Kristen Askelson, a staff writer. Holy Rosary Redevelopment held a groundbreaking Tuesday to announce the first phase of construction on the historic building. A grant was awarded to the project by the National Park Service to help fund the first phase of the stabilization process for the building, which includes demolition and debris removal, followed by a stabilization of the roof, walls, and floor. This groundbreaking is the culmination of the effort and commitment given by so many individuals towards this project throughout the years, which ultimately landed us in the great position that we are in today, said Dustin Cravens, Holy Rosary Redevelopment Board President. Being a part of this process has been rewarding as we work to restore the Holy Rosary to its place of prominence in the community, added Corey Jack, Holy Rosary Redevelopment Executive Director. I look forward to continuing working with the board and other community stakeholders as we break ground and move the project forward. The contractor will be named shortly, and work will begin in the first half of 2021. The goal for the project is to build out a state-of-the-art community center that will include an urgent care facility, educational space, a theater, a museum focused on African American and Creole history, and Holy Rosary's contributions in retail space. Holy Rosary opened in 1913 in Lafayette as an industrial school for African American women and began accepting male students in 1947. It was for years the only school for African American children in Acadiana. Later, it was the only Catholic school for African American children. Throughout its 107-year history, Holy Rosary was primarily run by the Sisters of the Holy Family, the second oldest order of African American nuns in the United States. The Diocese of Lafayette closed the school in 1993 and it fell into disrepair. About 2010, the diocese transferred ownership to the order of nuns that had run the school. The Louisiana Trust for Historic Preservation classified the site as one of the state's most endangered historic buildings in 2014. Craven said the three-story main building's roof is close to collapsing and the walls need to be shored up to prevent further decay. The Holy Rosary Redevelopment Board is working with the Lafayette Public Trust Financing Authority on redevelopment of the Institute, which is listed as an endangered historic site by the National Trust for Historic Preservation. In 2019, a new economic development district was created to collect an additional 1% sales tax to assist with the development of the Institute. The Holy Rosary District is bordered in part by Carmel Drive and Louisiana Avenue and is 1 block short of Webb and Warren Streets. The Holy Rosary District collected $7,876 in sales taxes between July and October. The Holy Rosary Board and the Financing Authority have been successful in raising more than $5 million in funding from both federal and state programs. And our next story, Lafayette Taxing District brings in $417,000. Funds dedicated to economic development. Stories by Claire Taylor, Lafayette writer, or staff writer. 5 new economic development districts in Lafayette collected $417,029 in sales and hotel taxes between July and October. The districts were created a year ago um, by the Lafayette City Parish Council and authorized this year by the City Council to collect sales tax and hotel taxes to assist with the economic development projects. The districts, all exclusively in the city, were drawn specifically to exclude voters, thereby avoiding the need for an election to approve the new taxes. The districts are structured so that City Council members serve as the board, separate from their responsibilities as council members. The board is not met in months. A 2% hotel occupancy tax is collected in all 5 districts with hotels. In addition, 1% sales tax is collected in all of the districts except the Trappy district, where 2% sales tax is being collected. The Lafayette Parish School Board Sales Tax Office reported the Northway District collected $136,984 in sales taxes during the first 4 months of collections. No hotel taxes were collected in the Northway District, which includes the Northgate Mall and nearby properties from Evangeline Thruway to Moss Street, including part of Castile Avenue. The University Avenue Gateway District, which runs along the University Avenue roughly from Stone Avenue to Renault Drive on the north side of Interstate 10 to Jean Street south of Cameron Street, collected $129,021 in sales taxes during the first 4 months, plus $21,387 in hotel taxes for a total of $150,408. The downtown district collected $120,374 in sales tax from July through October and $499 in motel taxes. The Downtown Development Authority Board on December 3rd unanimously adopted a resolution urging the Economic Development Board to meet and consider hiring a program administrator, determine administrative procedures, and discuss timelines for receiving development proposals. Someone has approached the board about using the taxing district funds for infrastructure improvements associated with planned retail project. The City Council Chairman, Pat Lewis, said he expects the Economic Development Board will meet early in 2021, possibly in January, to discuss hiring an administrator. The Holy Rosary District collected $7,876 in sales tax over the 4 months and no motel taxes. The district is bordered in part by Carmel Drive and Louisiana Avenue and is 1 block short of Webb and Warren Streets. Revenue collected in the district is expected to be used to renovate and restore the historic former Catholic school that opened in 1913 to serve black girls and later become co-ed. The school was closed in 1993. The Louisiana Trust for Historic Preservation classified the site as one of the state's most endangered historic buildings. And I think that is in 2014. The Holy Rosary Development Board is spearheading efforts to save and redevelop the buildings and property. It received a $450,000 grant from the National Park Service. The Trappy District brought in $888 and no motel taxes. The district consists of about 4 acres of former Trappy's canning facility property along the Vermilion River between University Avenue and Pinhook Road, along with a former Howard Johnson Motor Lodge, which Lafayette architect Stephen Ortego hopes to restore. The downtown district collected $120,374 in sales taxes from July through October and $499 in motel taxes. And up next we have the crime blotter, and a Sunset woman is arrested on Christmas night arson case, and this is by the Advocate staff. The State Fire Marshal's office has arrested a Sunset woman accused of setting fire to a relative's mobile home Christmas night. Delana Francis, 33, was booked into the St. Landry Parish Jail on 1 count of simple arson, according to a news release. About 11 p.m. Friday, the Sunset Police Department requested the assistance of the State Fire Marshal's office to determine the origin and cause of a mobile home fire in the 200 block of Doral Street. Following an assessment of the scene and evidence collection, Fire Marshal's Office deputies determined the fire was intentionally set, and Frances was identified as a suspect in the case. Investigators learned the owner of the home had been allowing Frances to stay there but recently asked her to leave following an altercation. They also learned a vehicle matching the description of Frances's vehicle, as well as a woman matching Frances's description, were seen on the property shortly before the fire was observed. In an interview with deputies, Frances admitted to being on the property at the time of the fire. She was then placed under arrest in connection with the case. 5 juveniles sought in Ville Platte shooting. The Ville Platte police are looking for 5 juveniles believed to be responsible for shooting a 5-year-old boy and assaulting a homeowner, KATC-TV reported. Police were called about 9:15 p.m. Monday to the 100 block of East Cotton Street after a report of a shooting. A homeowner confronted the 5 juveniles in his yard, one of which was armed with a metal pipe. According to Police Chief Neil Lartigue, the juveniles allegedly hit the homeowner in the head with the pipe while demanding money. As the homeowner retreated back to his residence, police say one of the juveniles shot towards the homeowner. A 5-year-old child was shot in the shoulder during the incident. The child was transported to a local hospital and is listed in stable condition. The homeowner was treated at a local hospital and later released. Anyone with information is asked to contact the Ville Platte Police Department at 337-363-1313. Now we'll take a short PSA break. Everyone should have shelter, especially during the holidays. Christmas is only a week away and Louisiana nights are getting colder. Due to COVID-19 and concerns for community spread, there has been a dramatic decrease in available shelter beds. Those beds will remain unavailable throughout the holidays. That means many experiencing homelessness may have no other option than to sleep on the street. Throughout this pandemic, the Acadiana Regional Coalition on Homelessness and Housing, or ARCH, has been able to utilize local hotel and motel rooms as a temporary housing solution. From there, case managers work with our fellow neighbors to gain success in finding long-term stability. However, the number of homeless is growing and the holidays are here. ARCH needs your help to get our neighbors out of the cold and into warm, safe housing for the holidays. Can you help today? If so, go to archacadiana.org. If you would prefer to give by check, please mail to ARCH, P.O. Box 3936, Lafayette, Louisiana 70502. AOC teams up with United Way of Acadiana for Learn United. The United Way of Acadiana has teamed up with AOC and other local educational groups for Learn United, bridging the digital gap to provide educational resources for households that don't have internet but do have a television. The Learn United programs air weekdays from 8 to 2 on AOC 2, Cox 16, LUS 4, and streaming at aoc.inc.org/watch. For the daily schedules and to submit content for the program, visit the United Way of Acadiana website at unitedwayofacadiana.org/learn-united. All right, and up next in state news. Congressman-elect Luke Letlow, 41, dies from coronavirus complications. We're all in disbelief, by Sam Carlin. Congressman-elect Luke Letlow died Tuesday evening of complications with COVID-19, shaking the Louisiana political world weeks after his election to represent Louisiana's 5th District in Congress as the state's youngest U.S. representative. Letlow, 41, died at Ochsner LSU Health, Shreveport, from complications from COVID-19. His spokesman, Andrew Bouch, said in a statement, Letlow was admitted to a Monroe hospital with COVID-19 symptoms on December 19th before being transferred to the Shreveport Hospital and moving to the intensive care unit on December 23rd. Letlow is survived by his wife, Julie Barnhill Letlow, and 2 young children, Bouch said. He was in critical condition but had recently shown signs of improvement when he apparently suffered a cardiac event this evening that was refractory to all resuscitation efforts, said Dr. G.E. Ghali of LSU Health Shreveport. Ghali previously said Letlow was being treated with the antiviral drug remdesivir and steroids. Asked if Letlow had any underlying conditions that would have made his death more likely, Ghali said in a text message, "None. All COVID-related. The family appreciates the numerous prayers and support over the past days, but asks for privacy during this difficult and unexpected time," Bouch said. A statement from the family along with funeral arrangements will be announced at a later time. Letlow won the election to Congress earlier this month to replace outgoing Republican U.S. Representative Ralph Abraham, for whom he served as chief of staff. He was said to be Louisiana's youngest congressman. "We're all in disbelief," said Louis Gervich, the Republican Party chair. "The world was his oyster." Letlow of Start, a small rural community east of Monroe, beat out Alexandria State Rep. Lance Harris, also a Republican, in a runoff election to succeed Abraham on December 5th. He was well known amongst Louisiana political and governmental officials, having previously worked for Bobby Jindal when Jindal was in Congress, and later for the governor's office. He arrived in Abraham's office in 2014 after a stint working for a Denver energy company in governmental relations. "Luke has been a good friend for so many years, and we are saddened he was taken from us at such a young age," Jindal said in a post on Twitter. "We had talked in recent days about his excitement about the opportunity to serve the people of the 5th Congressional District and his love and devotion for Julia and their kids." Jindal said he first met Letlow when Letlow was a college student and spent countless hours with him in his truck driving the back roads of Louisiana. His passion for service had been a constant throughout his life. Letlow touted his government experience in his bid for Congress, saying he would use his political background to work with Republicans, Democrats, and government staffers to bring federal aid to the largely rural district, which is the second poorest congressional district in the country. He said his priorities were creating jobs and extending fast internet service throughout the district. His district, which he would have represented upon inauguration next month, encompassed 24 parishes and includes Monroe, Alexandria, Opelousas, St. Francisville, Amite, and Bogalusa. When he tested positive for COVID-19 earlier this month, Letlow was one of the many elected officials who had contracted the virus, including U.S. Senator Bill Cassidy. Attorney General Jeff Landry, Treasurer John Schroeder, and Congressman Mike Johnson. Early in the pandemic, State Representative Reggie Bagalia died from COVID-19, but no major elected officials had since succumbed to the virus that has killed more than 7,000 in Louisiana. His death prompted an outpouring of support from elected officials and political operatives across the political spectrum. U.S. Representative Garrett Graves, Republican of Baton Rouge, called Letlow's death a huge loss to Louisiana and America. U.S. Senator Bill Cassidy said his death brings home COVID can kill. To most folks it doesn't, but it truly can. Governor John Bel Edwards said in a statement that Letlow felt a calling from a young age to serve the people of his home state. COVID-19 has taken Congressman-elect Letlow from us far too soon. I am heartbroken that he will not be able to serve our people as a U.S. representative, but I am even more devastated for his loving family, Edwards said. Louisiana has lost more than 7,300 people to COVID-19 since March, and each one of them leaves a tremendous hole in our state. The governor ordered flags to be flown at half-staff on the day of Letlow's funeral. Mark Ballard, Tyler Bridges, and Emma Deisher contributed to this story. Up next in state news, Ardoin submits spring election plan, proposal includes expanded mail-in voting, no extra early voting days. Stories by Sam Carlin. Louisiana chief elections official is proposing an emergency plan for the February and spring elections, mirroring the expansion of absentee mail voting allowed during presidential elections this fall, though without additional days of early voting. Secretary of State Kyle Ardoin, a Republican, submitted his plan to lawmakers ahead of legislative hearings next week. If approved by lawmakers and Governor John Bel Edwards, a Democrat, the state will have in place the same mail-in voting expansion as the summer, November, and December elections. It doesn't feature the extra days of early voting that were included in Louisiana's November presidential election. Those extra days helped power early voting records to record levels in the state. Tyler Bray, a spokesman for Ardoin, said a federal judge's ruling that required additional absentee balloting during the pandemic didn't require more early voting days for the lower turnout December election. Because of that, Ardoin didn't include the additional days of early voting for the upcoming elections, which are expected to have a lower turnout. We are following basically exactly how the court ordered us to conduct the elections in the fall, Bray said. Ardoin's plan comes after a partisan battle erupted over the same mail-in voting expansions for the presidential election. At the behest of Republican lawmakers, Ardoin created a plan for the November election that included no accommodations for people affected by COVID-19 to vote by mail. As a result, the governor refused to sign it, and a federal judge stepped in to order the same expansion of absentee ballots as the state used in the summer elections. State Senator Sharon Hewitt, a Slidell Republican who chairs the Senate and Governmental Affairs Committee that will review the proposal, said it needs a few tweaks, but she agrees with the basic outline of the plan. While I still believe that the best way to ensure your vote is counted is to vote in person, I recognize that there may be a small part of our population that will be unable to vote in person, and predominantly over the over 65 age group, Hewitt said. The COVID absentee ballot, which was a point of contention in the previous plans, was rarely utilized in the fall elections, but will be useful for some people in the spring elections, particularly since we will not have an extended early voting period in the spring as we did in the November election. While the state had additional reasons to request a mail ballot for the recent elections, the vast majority of those who took advantage of it were already allowed under state law to vote absentee because they were 65 years or older. Relatively few people, though, still several thousand, used the COVID-19 excuses to vote by mail. The emergency protocols, if approved by lawmakers and the governor, would be in place for February, March, and April elections. In February, voters in outgoing State Representative Stephen Dwight's district will cast ballots for his replacement after he was elected district attorney in Calcasieu Parish with a March runoff. The March and April elections are expected to feature the primary and runoff, respectively, for the race to replace U.S. Representative Cedric Richmond, who is leaving for a senior role in the President-elect Joe Biden's White House. The elections in 2021 will likely see a much smaller turnout than the presidential election. However, Edwards has not yet set a date for the election. Spokeswoman Christina Stevens said he would set a date when Richmond submits his resignation. The March and April elections are already scheduled for municipal elections. Edwards received the plan proposed by Ardoin on Monday evening, Stevens said, and would review it in the upcoming days. We know we have several months left of the pandemic, Stevens said. If there are elections happening, the pandemic needs to be a major factor in making the plan and putting the plan in place, he said. Edwards insisted on an expansion of mail-in voting for the presidential election in November and the December runoffs in Louisiana, and blocked Ardoin's original plan. As a result, U.S. District Judge Shelley Dick ruled in September that the state needed the expanded mail voting to account for the pandemic. In October, Attorney General Jeffrey Landry, a Republican who defended the exclusion of more mail-in voting, appealed the ruling along with Ardoin. The new plan allows people to access mail ballots if they are at higher risk of COVID-19 because of serious underlying medical conditions, subject to a medically necessary quarantine or isolation order, advised by a health provider to quarantine, experiencing symptoms of COVID-19 and seeking a diagnosis, or caring for someone who's quarantining or in isolation. That mirrors the rules for summer and fall elections. And in news from New Orleans, vandalized Banksy painting restored. Fast-acting artists come to the rescue by Doug McCash, staff writer. Saturday brought bad news for New Orleans art lovers. Sometime in the night, someone had badly marred the Umbrella Girl, a painting by the British graffiti superstar Banksy. The artwork on the corner of North Rampart and Curleric Streets was one of the few remaining examples of a suite of paintings that Banksy created during a secretive visit to the city in 2008. The vandal or vandals cut through the clear plastic sheeting over the painting to spray a red tag over the girl's face, thereby attempting to ruin the piece for good. But the attackers failed. Photographer and Banksy admirer Carlos Fundora said he spent more than 3 hours Saturday evening gently removing the fresh paint from the surface of the 12-year-old mural with a sanding sponge. He and a group of fellow artists then protected the painting with a sheet of plywood until they were able to replace the clear plastic sheet on Monday. Fundora said the ad hoc group effort to restore the painting was about not letting the city lose something people enjoy. Quote, Banksy apparently based the Umbrella Girl on the Morton Salt logo, though in his ironic version the umbrella is the source of a downpour. The much-beloved painting is widely interpreted as a symbol of the federal levee system that failed during the Hurricane Katrina storm surge in 2005. Fundora said he and other artists were unable to remove a trace of the red paint on the girl's dress without damaging the original painting. Fundora said he is unaware of who owns the blighted property where Banksy is located. For years, the painting has been watched over by volunteers. In 2014, a thief attempted to cut the valuable artwork from the wall, but was foiled. Banksy paintings have sold for millions at auction. Fundora said if the painting were in a museum or a private collection, it would have been restored by experts. None of us would be trusted to do this under other circumstances, he said. A Banksy painting known as the Gray Ghost was damaged in a similar act of vandalism on Christmas. Alright, so we're at our mid-show news break. Today we're going to do a couple of the entertainment features from the Advocate, the Acadiana Advocate. You can find them at theadvocate.com. Today in history. Today is Wednesday, December 30th, the 365th day of 2020. There is one day left in the year. Today's highlight in history on December 30th, 1903, about 600 people died when a fire broke out at the recently opened Iroquois Theater in Chicago. On this date, in 1813, British troops burned Buffalo, New York during the War of 1812. In 1853, the United States and Mexico signed a treaty under which the U.S. agreed to buy some 45,000 square miles of land from Mexico for $10 million in a deal known as the Gadsden Purchase. In 1860, 10 days after South Carolina seceded from the Union, the state militia seized the United States arsenal in Charleston. In 1922, Vladimir Lenin proclaimed the establishment of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, which lasted nearly 7 decades before dissolving in December 1991. In 1936, the United Auto Workers Union staged its first sit-down strike at the General Motors Fisher Body Plant No. 1 in Flint, Michigan. The strike lasted until February 11, 1937. In 1940, California's first freeway, the Arroyo Seco Parkway, connecting Los Angeles and Pasadena, was officially opened by Governor Cuthbert L. Olson. In 1972, the United States halted its heavy bombing of North Vietnam. In 94, a gunman walked into a pair of suburban Boston abortion clinics and opened fire, killing 2 employees. John C. Salvi III was later convicted of murder. He died in prison, an apparent suicide. In 2004, a fire broke out during a rock concert at a nightclub in Buenos Aires, Argentina, killing 194 people. In 2009, 7 CIA employees and a Jordanian intelligence officer were killed by a suicide bomber at a U.S. base in Khost, Afghanistan. 10 years ago, Republican Lisa Murkowski was officially named winner of Alaska's U.S. Senate race following a period of legal fights and limbo that had lasted longer than the write-in campaign she waged to keep her job. 5 years ago, Bill Cosby was charged with drugging and sexually assaulting a woman at his suburban Philadelphia home in 2004. It was the first criminal case brought against the comedian out of a torrent of allegations that destroyed his good guy image as America's dad. Cosby's first trial ended in a mistrial after jurors deadlocked. He was convicted on 3 charges at his retrial in April 2018 and was sentenced to 10 years in prison. 1 year ago, Chinese state media said a scientist who had set off an ethical debate with claims that he had made the world's first genetically edited babies was sentenced to 3 years in prison because of the research. Today's birthdays. Actor Russ Tamblyn is 86. Baseball Hall of Famer Sandy Koufax is 85. Folk singer Noel Paul Stookey is 83. TV director James Burrows is 80. Actor Fred Ward is 78. Singer-musician Michael Nesmith is 78. Actor Conchetta Tomei is 75. Singer Patti Smith is 74. Rock singer-musician Jeff Lynne is 73. TV personality Meredith Vieira is 67. Actor Cheryl Lee Ralph is 65. Actor Patricia Calamber is 64. Country singer Susie Bogus is 64. Actor-comedian Tracy Ullman is 61. Rock musician Rob Hotchkiss is 60. Radio TV commentator Sean Hannity is 59. Sprinter Ben Johnson is 59. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is 57. Actor George Newbern is 57. Movie director Bennett Miller is 54. Singer J.K. of Jamiroquai is 51. Rock musician Byron McMacken is Pennywise is 51. Actor Meredith Monroe is 51. Actor Daniel Sunjata is 49. Actor Maureen Flanagan is 48. Actor Jason Bear is 47. Golfer Tiger Woods is 45. TV personality boxer Layla Ali is 43. Actor Lucy Punch is 43. Singer-actor Tyrese Gibson is 42. Actor Eliza Dushku is 40. Rock musician Tim Lopez of Plain White Tees is 40. Actor Kristen Croak is 38. Folk rock singer-musician Wesley Schultz of the Lumineers is 38. NBA player LeBron James is 36. Rhythm and blues singer Andrea Day is 34. Actor Katie Lotz is 34. Actor Jeff Ward is 34. Country musician Eric Steedley is 30. And pop rock musician Jamie Felice of Hot Shell Ray is 29. All right, and in today's Zodiac, we have Capricorn. Engage in changes that will encourage you to look great and perform flawlessly. Refuse to let the past bring you down. Stay focused and strive for perfection. Aquarius, make decisions based on what's best for you. Step into the limelight, voice your opinion, and follow through with what makes you happy. Pisces, check and see who is excited about your plans and eager to pitch in and help. Planning a virtual gathering will lead to interesting conversations and possibilities. Aries, concentrate on what's important to you and nurture meaningful relationships. Honesty regarding joint finances and ventures will help bring you closer to your goal. Taurus, you'll learn something valuable if you observe what others are experiencing. Make a change that will help you avoid getting caught in an expensive tax implication. Leave nothing to chance. Gemini, when in doubt, ask questions and make adjustments. A last-minute change someone makes will turn into a learning experience for you. Have alternatives ready. Cancers, Listen to an offer and mull over what's in it for you. Dissatisfaction breeds contempt, so make your demands clear. Honesty and innovation will help you persuade. Leo, plan how you will bring in a new year with health in mind. Taking a risk will put you in jeopardy. Keep your plans simple, doable, and only for those within your immediate circle. Virgo, information you discover will give you a better idea of what's possible. Listen to a passionate plea, but don't buy into something that may put you or someone you love in jeopardy. Libra, do your part to ensure that everything runs smoothly. Changes at home or work will set off emotions. Spend more time on self-improvement, not trying to change others. Scorpio, inside information regarding a trend that can help you get ahead will come your way. Don't invest in someone else. Take the initiative to do your own thing. Sagittarius, refuse to let anyone disrupt your plans or talk you into something that isn't worthwhile. Put more energy into fitness, nutrition, and preparing for endeavors. The horoscope is an entertainment feature. It's not based on scientific fact. All right, and back to state news. Researcher from Gonzales IDs new snake species native to the Philippines. This is by Paul Cobbler, a staff writer. Jeff Wynell has always been fascinated with snakes, the way they can live all over the world, from deserts to rainforests, and even his family's backyard in Gonzales. When Wynell, 30, graduated from East Ascension High School in 2009, his fascination was just a hobby as he started school at LSU, studying engineering for a time. 10 years later, Wynell graduated to research assistant at the University of Kansas Biodiversity Institute. Is responsible for the world's most recent discovery of a new species of snake, one that lives in the Philippines. Wynell says he was able to take a hobby and turn it into something I do all the time. Levitonius mirus, or the were dwarf burrowing snake, is native to Samar and Leyte Islands in the Philippines and grows to be just over half a foot long, according to the study published by Wynell and 3 of his colleagues in a peer-reviewed scientific journal. Wynell discovered the snake by accident. This was totally unplanned, as far as I wasn't going to look for a new species at all, Wynell said. I was hoping to work on a different project, looking at the evolutionary relationships among this group of snakes called Pseudorhabdion. Pardon that pronunciation. It looks superficially similar to this new snake, so it would have been easy for someone to misidentify that. While I was working on that, I found this one. While running a DNA sequence on a sample of what he thought was a Pseudorhabdion in 2017, Wynell realized that the DNA did not match the species he thought he was studying. Further analysis of the sample revealed that 3 specimens stored at the Institute's biodiversity collection, gathered on missions between 2006 and 2012, were an entirely new species. After years of gathering data on the new snake, Wynell and his colleagues published their findings. The snake's Latin name, Levitonius mirus, was coined by Wynell and partially after a mentor, California Academy of Sciences researcher Alan Levitan, who has spent decades studying snakes in the Philippines. The snake is even part of a new genus, or taxonomic classification that species are grouped under, that was named after Levitan. The second part of the scientific name, mirus, translates from Latin to marvelous. There are a lot of cases where specimens are misidentified, and sometimes it's going to be another species from the area that's already been described and someone just misidentified it. Other times it turns out to be something really different, like in this case, Wynell said. The specimens in the Institute's biodiversity collection are only known ones ever found, Wynell said, something he unsuccessfully tried to rectify in 2017 when he traveled to the Philippines to find more of the species. Wynell is now planning a trip back to the country in the fall in hopes of trapping a living specimen of the new snake. Wynell wasn't complete won't complete his doctoral degree at Kansas until 2022, but he said he could see himself focusing his career on studying the evolution of life in the Philippines. There's a lot to discover, he said. The Philippines, it being an island archipelago, really lends itself to studying evolution. Each island is basically a replicate experiment of evolution. All right, and let's see. In national news today, we have, unfortunately, the first reported U.S. case of virus variant found in Colorado by Patty Nienberg, Associated Press, Report for America. And this comes from Denver, Colorado. The first reported U.S. case of the COVID-19 variant that's been seen in the United Kingdom has been discovered in Colorado, Governor Jared Polis announced Tuesday. The variant was found in a man in his 20s who is in isolation southeast of Denver in Elbert County and has no travel history, state health officials said. Elbert County is mainly a rural area of rolling plains at the far edge of the Denver metro area that includes a portion of Interstate 70, the state's main east-west highway. The Colorado State Laboratory confirmed the virus variant, and Centers for Disease Control and Prevention was notified. Scientists in the UK believe that the variant is more contagious than previously identified strains. The vaccines being given now are thought to be effective against the variant, Colorado health officials said in a news release. Public health officials are investigating other potential cases and performing contact tracing to determine the spread of the variant through the state. There's a lot we don't know about this new COVID-19 variant, but scientists in the United Kingdom are warning the world that it is significantly more contagious. The health and safety of Coloradans is our top priority, and we will closely monitor this case as well as all COVID-19 indicators very closely, Polis said. Polis said, and state health officials are expected to hold a news conference on Wednesday. The discovery of the new variant led the CDC to issue new rules on Christmas Day for travelers arriving to the U.S. from the UK, requiring they show proof of a negative COVID-19 test. Worry has been growing about the variant since the weekend before Christmas, when Britain's Prime Minister said a new strain of the coronavirus seemed to spread more easily than earlier ones and was moving rapidly throughout England. In our next story, a push for $2,000 in relief hits block in Senate by Lisa Mascaro and Jill Colvin of the Associated Press. This comes from Washington, D.C. President Donald Trump's push for the bigger $2,000 COVID-19 relief check stalled out Tuesday in the Senate as Republicans blocked a swift vote proposed by Democrats and a split within their own ranks over whether to boost spending or defy the White House. The roadblock mounted by Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell may not be sustainable as pressure mounts. Trump wants the Republican-led chamber to follow the House and increase the checks from $600 for millions of Americans. A growing number of Republicans, including 2 senators in a runoff elections on January 5th in Georgia, have said they will support the larger amount, but most GOP senators oppose more spending even if they are also wary of bucking Trump. Senators will be back at it Wednesday as McConnell is devising a way out of the political bind, but the outcome is highly uncertain. There's one question left today. Do Senate Republicans join with the rest of America in supporting $2,000 checks? Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer said as he made a motion to vote. The showdown has thrown Congress into a chaotic year-end session just days before new lawmakers are set to be sworn into office for the new year. It's preventing action on other priority, overturning Trump's veto on a sweeping defense bill that has been approved every year for 60 years. Saying little about Trump's proposal, McConnell signaled his preference for an alternative approach. The GOP leader filed new legislation late Tuesday linking the president's demand for bigger checks with two other Trump priorities: restrictions on tech companies like Facebook or Twitter that the president complained are unfair to conservatives, as well as the establishment of a new commission to review the presidential election. The Senate will begin a process, the GOP leader said. He said only that he would bring the president's demand for the $2,000 checks and other remaining issues into focus. The president's last-minute push for bigger checks deeply divides Republicans, who are split between those who align with Trump's populist instincts and those who adhere to what had been a more traditional conservative views against government spending. Congress had settled on smaller $600 payments in a compromise over the big year-end relief bill Trump reluctantly signed into law. Liberal senators, led by Bernie Sanders of Vermont, who support the relief aid, are blocking action on the defense bill until a vote can be taken on Trump's demand for $2,000. For most Americans, the working class of this country today faces more economic desperation than at any time since the Great Depression of the 1930s, Sanders said, as he also tried to force a vote on the relief checks. Working families need help now, but McConnell objected a second time. The GOP blockade is causing turmoil for some as the virus crisis worsens nationwide and Trump amplifies his unexpected demands. The two GOP senators from Georgia, David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler, announced Tuesday that they support Trump's plan for bigger checks as they face Democrats Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock in runoff elections. That will determine which party controls the Senate. I'm delighted to support the president, said Perdue on Fox News. Loeffler said in an interview on Fox that she, too, backs the boosted relief checks. Trump repeated his demands in a tweet ahead of Tuesday's session. $2,000 for our great people, not $600, he said. Following Trump's lead, Republican Senators John Hawley of Missouri and Marco Rubio of Florida, among the party's potential 2024 presidential hopefuls, are pushing the party in the president's direction. We've got the votes. Let's vote today, Hawley tweeted. Other Republicans panned the bigger checks, saying the nearly $400 billion price tag was too high. The relief is not targeted to those in need, and Washington has already dispatched ample sums of COVID aid. We've spent $4 trillion on this problem, said Senator John Cornyn, Republican of Texas. The House vote late Monday to approve Trump's request was a stunning turn of events. Just days ago, during a brief Christmas Eve session, Republicans blocked Trump's sudden demand for bigger checks as he defiantly refused to sign the broader COVID-19 aid and year-end funding bill into law. As Trump spent days fuming from his private club in Florida where he is spending the holidays, millions of Americans saw jobless aid lapse and the nation risked a federal government shutdown Tuesday. Dozens of Republicans calculated it was better to link with the Democrats to increase the pandemic payments rather than buck the outgoing president and constituents counting on the money. House Democrats led passage, 275 to 134, but 44 Republicans joined almost all Democrats for a robust two-thirds vote of approval. It's highly possible that McConnell will set up votes ahead on both the House-passed measure supporting Trump's $2,000 checks, as well as his own new version linking it with the tech company reforms and the presidential election review. It's a process that almost ensures neither bill will pass. Let's see, we're just a little more time for sports here before we sign off this morning. Thanks again for joining us on Local News Live. And this story is titled Back to Back. St. Thomas More captures back-to-back state title with dramatic win over De La Salle by Kevin Foote, staff writer for The Advocate. St. Thomas More had to work much harder for this one. After STM beat De La Salle by 48 points in last year's Division II state championship game, the Cavaliers delivered a clear message early this time it would be different. However, second-seeded St. Thomas More delivered the last statement with critical fourth down stop with 33 seconds left to preserve a dramatic 38-28 victory over De La Salle on Monday at Turpin Stadium in Natchitoches. I'm super proud of these guys, STM coach Jim Hightower said. What a season. The season lasted 6 months. We started in June and we're getting ready to go into January, but they stayed focused throughout. These guys really believed in what they were doing. They really believed in each other. The win gives the Cougars their second straight state title and third overall. Since day one, I set it undefeated state champs, quarterback Walker Howard said. We did it. The dramatic finish begun with the Cavaliers grabbing a brief 28-27 lead after a 14-yard run by Montrell Johnson with 5:45 left to play. We did something that nobody really does against this team, Cavaliers coach Ryan Manali said. We had a chance to win with like 5:45 left. We expected to win. We believed we were coming to win a state championship and really shock everybody. Johnson finished with 29 carries for 182 yards and 4 scores. The key word, though, was brief. At this point, Howard went to work, first as a gutsy 7-yard run to escape a big loss. Then Howard's right arm went to work, hitting Jack Betch for 11, and then a 31-yard circus connection to Carter Arsenault on a flea flicker to the 25. 2 plays later, Howard hit Paxton Perrette for a game-winning 22-yard touchdown with 3 minutes and 52 seconds left. It's a kid's dream, Howard said. Always when you're young, you dream about the state championship game in the fourth quarter. Big moments. We came through in the big moments. It was a great game, so I'm proud of our senior class, he said. Making the possession even better was a 2-point conversion pass to Betch to make up for a blocked missed extra point on the previous touchdown. Betch finished with a Division II record 232 yards receiving on 10 catches with 2 scores. He got STM going with a 29-yard touchdown grab in the first quarter and later caught a 38-yarder TD in traffic to give the Cougars a 27-21 lead with 11 minutes and 20 seconds left. It just means a lot more this year with COVID, Betch said. Everything we had to overcome and go over, obviously we did it, and we did it with passion, blood, sweat, and tears. We grinded every day. Nobody took their eyes off the trophy. Walker threw it up, and I knew I could get it on fourth quarter TD catch. I had to go up and get it. Whenever the ball's in the air, it's my ball. I don't really let anybody else get in the way. Howard finished 18 of 26 passing for 381 yards and 4 touchdowns. It's been a fun season, Howard said. I'm so glad I got to play this year. But the work wasn't done. The Cougars' defense had to get a stop. De La Salle's offense had controlled the clock with 22 first downs behind a 372-yard rushing performance. When STM scored, it was usually quick, such as scoring drives of 2 plays and 51 yards, 5 plays and 65 yards, 1 play and 37 yards, and 2 plays and 59 yards. The Cavaliers, 9-1, put together scoring drives of 8, 14 and 10 plays to dominate the time of possession, 36 minutes 46 seconds to 10 minutes 43 seconds. The biggest difference in the game this year was how productive their offense was, Hightower said. Last year we were able to get some quick stops, we got some turnovers, and they made a mistake in the kicking game. Our offense did about what our offense did this year. They never stopped us. The difference was they were able to run the clock and score points. Their offense stepped up a lot. Johnson got the last drive going with runs of 20 and 22 yards to reach the Cougars' 20. Then the tide began to turn for St. Thomas More. After 2 STM defenders went down with injuries, the Cavaliers had a bad snap for a 7-yard loss. De La Salle never recovered. On the 4th and 11, Johnson ran right and attempted to throw a pass, but Jude LaSala knocked it away to preserve the win for the Cougars 10-1. We were expecting some trickery, some kind of trick play, STM linebacker Bryce Bouillon said. As soon as they handed the ball off, I knew something was going to happen. We were able to bat it down to win the game. In addition to Johnson, Byron Phillips ran for 86 yards on 13 carries as Cavalier mounted a much bigger challenge than in last year's 58-10 win for STM. This year, they were a lot more physical, Bullion said. Their backs ran harder. It was hard to keep up with them. Because they took off on the outside, we made adjustments at the half and ran a new defense. The offense had the ball with an opportunity to win. And so hats off to Spencer Briley. He made a perfect kick on that ball and definitely perfectly planned and executed. Perfect description for the 2020 Cougars, says Kevin Foote. And we're coming to the end of our news this morning, and we have some funerals in the Acadiana area today. Catherine Auten will be laid to rest at Martin and Castiles. La Fleur de Lis Chapel in Lafayette at 1 p.m. Peggy Bernhard at the Holy Cross Catholic Church in Lafayette at noon. Joseph Champagne Sr., St. Alphonsus Catholic Church at 10:30 a.m. Julie Guidry at Cathedral of St. John the Evangelist Catholic Church in Lafayette at 2 p.m. And Edna Perkins, First Presbyterian Church of Lafayette, located at 1130 Johnson Street at 11 a.m. Obituary office hours are Monday through Friday between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. You can reach them at the phone at 225-388-0289 or at obits@theadvocate.com. And this has been Local News Live for Wednesday, December 30th, 2020. I've been your reader, Matt Roberts. We're going to take a break for the rest of the week to ring in the new year, but we'll be back on the first Monday of 2021. Join us at 9 a.m. on AOC 1, Cypress Street Radio, or the AOC Community Media channel on YouTube. You can read these stories and more at theadvocate.com and find out how to volunteer and more at aocinc.org. I've been Matt Roberts. This has been Local News Live for December 30th. Thanks again for joining us.